Alright folks, that was a wrap on Apple's WWDC, and I took some notes and wanted to give you a quick reaction to the conference and a quick summary of everything that was shown at WWDC 25 keynote. There was quite a bit this year actually, especially for power users and productivity and a lot of AI. So let's dig right into it. Now Apple Intelligence, they began actually coming out. Well, actually, they began with a promotion for the Formula One show, which is featuring Brad Pitt, movie actually, coming out pretty soon. And there was a nice little spot there with Craig in a F1 car. There was a little bit of fun here with Tim Cook being the coach and whatnot, and that was good. But once we got past that, we moved on to talking about Apple Intelligence, and they had a bit of a summary there of all of their features that they had introduced before and that which had come out before. And then they made a bit of an excuse about Siri, which they did not give any date on an AI improved Siri. So sometime between now and WWDC 26, maybe that will happen. Now, the one big thing they highlighted as part of their initial AI recap was that they are bringing the Apple Foundation models, large language models, to developers for them to use in their own apps, which is pretty cool. It is just the Apple models that they mentioned, and that contrasts quite a bit from Microsoft's approach at Build 2025, where they introduced AI Foundry Local, which allows for use of a wide variety of AI models, not just the ones from Microsoft, but from a wide variety of model makers that can be easily accessed and used in applications. Apple, of course, is going with their more vertically integrated approach and using their own models. Now, after they talked about artificial intelligence, they went to their new design. So let me see if I can bring that up here for you. Yeah. Got some Craig talking about a variety of recap stuff. By the way, he was looking good as usual this year. The spot with him in the F1 car was pretty funny, although it also is, I don't know, it feels a little desperate, the amount of attention that they're giving to Apple's exclusive things. But here we go through the updates. Okay, so now we have the Finder, which is being shown. You'll notice the transparency. Now, I was thinking that Windows Vista is clearly retro now because there's a lot of similarities here between Vista and what is being shown here. This whole glass concept, and here's them showing off some of the physical elements they used as inspiration. Again, showing off some of the. Wait, so this was a big focus, was the clock on the iOS home screen, and this now transparent, and it will of course show whatever is through whatever is your wallpaper, and so on and so forth. And so liquid glass is relevant to all of the Apple operating systems. And so you're going to find that new transparent liquid glass approach throughout all of Apple's apps and operating systems on any device as long as it's been updated. Speaking of which, this is, as was rumored, it is confirmed now that they are changing the naming scheme to reflect the year for all operating systems. So there's no longer iOS that number and iPadOS that number and macOS that name and number. Instead, it's going to be iOS 26, and it was 26, which I guess they're going with the car model year numbering approach, where it's forward-looking, and so that is going to be across all their operating systems just to reduce confusion. Now, as far as the actual updates for the iOS, this was the big one and the one they spent the most time on. There's a good look of iOS. You will notice that there is the new design of the sort of task area down there, the icons, And in general, it's meant to be more transparent and dynamic. Now, some of the major feature updates I will note here. One, there is a new camera app. It's actually been redesigned quite a bit. So it looks a lot more seamless, and there's been a priority on making your most used features and camera modes show up front and center, which I appreciate because I do feel like the camera app had gotten a little out of control lately. Also, there was now I'm going to skip by some updates to Safari, FaceTime, CarPlay, some minor things there. Nothing I think was extremely interesting. Although, if you use those, you might like them. Now, going on to the phone app, this was a big one. There is more of a focus on your favorites when you open the app. They have a call screening feature that can it'll allow you to see when someone calls and you're not the phone's not sure if it's a spam call or not. It'll pick up, and then the person who's calling can talk, and it will show you a transcription of that. And then if you want to pick it up, you can pick it up. If you don't want to, you can let it go. And then there's also a new hold assist feature, which was interesting. And so it will automatically, when it detects hold music, it will actually let you return to other tasks while still having the call be connected. And then when the hold music is over and someone picks up, it will notify the person picking up that you are putting them on hold, I guess. And then you can quickly pick up and connect to the call, which hopefully will just save you a little bit of time when you are on hold, letting you pay attention to other things and then immediately see when the call is picked up. Now, I do suspect there might be some places where when they hear that sort of holding call screening thing happen, because they do get a notification, apparently, audio notification that it's happening, they might just, disconnect, but we'll see how that works. Now, messages. Got a lot of updates. This was a big one. Backgrounds for messages, custom backgrounds, as in background images. There are now polls that are going to be AI suggested, actually, when you're having conversations and messages. There's going to be Apple Cache and messages. You're going to have typing indicators in group chats and messages. There are screening tools for screening out messages that might be spam. Those are AI powered. Some new Genmoji features for adding ChatGPT images. Well, that's not actually in Genmoji. Genmoji lets you combine different emoji, and also you can make changes to friends' portraits. That's with ChatGPT or without. And you can have ChatGPT images in the image playground. Also, AI-powered translation features, and that includes live translations and FaceTime. And on calls or in messages, even you can do translation in messages, all powered by AI. Now I'm skipping past Apple Maps and Wallet. In Apple Pay, relatively small feature gains there, I would say. I would also say that's the case in gaming for iOS as well as the other operating systems. But there is a games app. It has recommendations. It has a basic library, friends, achievements, all the basic stuff that you would expect, a gaming app to have, and none of it is particularly noticeable. It's this Apple playing catch up. Nothing here is going to, really change the view that Apple's platforms are not really gaming platforms unless you're into very casual gaming. So there was some rumors about that beforehand. If you were excited about that, I don't think it's really going to meet expectations. Now, visual intelligence actually got a lot of changes as well, mainly in that it can now be used on things that are on your iPhone screen and not just that you're pointing the camera at. And that's actually pretty cool because it means that you can use visual intelligence, for example, to identify an object and see if you can search the web to see what that object is, or if you know what it is, where it might be for sale, or any additional information for it. You can also add events from photographs that or not photographs, screenshots, screen captures of your screen. So if you are actually see an event while you're scrolling through social media, you can immediately add that. I want to see if I can actually find that real quick here, because I thought that was interesting. This is the fellow, yeah. So this is the fellow that was giving the Apple Visual Intelligence updates, and so he's doing some shopping, and then he sees this bluegrass festival he wants to go to, right? And so there he decides to take a screen capture of that and to actually have Apple Intelligence add that to his calendar, his Apple Calendar automatically, which I think is pretty cool. Now, watchOS. Most of the watchOS stuff was pretty minor except for one thing. Workout Buddy. Now, I think, Apple Watches in general oftentimes are used very predominantly for their workout features, and they're actually adding a full AI Workout Buddy into the workout app. So basically, when you start a workout, if you enable this Workout Buddy, it'll say, hey, great, you can do it. Great job today, get going. And then while you're through your workout, it will maybe offer some suggestions and some summarizations. For example, if you have a great mile when you're running, it can tell you what your time was and say, hey, you did your best mile this month, and give you some encouragement there. Same with cycling and all the other sports that are supported by the workout app, which is quite a few. And switching to the screen here, let's see if we can find an example. So here's the person running. I guess it's actually going to be kind of hard to find a visual example of this because it is mostly audio encouragement. In fact, I think it's entirely audio encouragement, my understanding of this. The idea is you put in your AirPods, you get your Workout Buddy going on your watch, and it will provide this feedback. And I think that's going to be a feature that some people think is really cool and that some people think is really cringy. I think it depends on your perspective on AI and AI assistance in general in your personal life. However, it is by far the most significant thing that they talked about with watchOS. tvOS, not a lot going on there. There usually isn't. Really the focus, of course it gets liquid glass operating system design. That's also true of watchOS and all the operating systems, so I'm going to stop mentioning that from now on. Besides that, the focus on tvOS really seemed to be on content. They mentioned a lot about all the Apple content they have and how, well reviewed it is and upcoming shows. tvOS is really defined, I think, as a services play for Apple these days, and WWDC 26 really reinforced that. Notably, not a whole lot going for gaming, so the long rumored and hoped for tvOS as a gaming console stuff, hasn't gotten any particular enhancements. So let's see, going on to macOS. macOS was huge this year, and I think macOS users are probably going to be pretty pleased in general with what was seen. So, by the way, the operating system numbering scheme does not mean macOS no longer has names. It's macOS Tahoe. Yes, they still have their names, so they're not abandoning that tradition, which is good to see. Now here we can see the updated operating system design for macOS Tahoe with liquid glass. I think it looks quite nice. Notable that the menu bar at the top is now transparent, really integrates into the entire background. Now, and also notably, like all the iOS features that I mentioned already, they are included in macOS. So that includes things like live translation and messages. What else would be a good example? All the messaging features. So live translation in Messages phone, FaceTime, all the messaging features that I mentioned, like polls, backgrounds, etc., etc. Everything I mentioned in iOS is supposed to also be in the macOS versions of those apps. Okay, so not going to reiterate that any further. Moving on the continuity. So live activities coming to the Mac. So those are updates for, like, if you get DoorDash or something, it can show you a little widget, a live activity widget up there in the menu bar to say when that is going to arrive. Also, there is now a full phone app. You did have connectivity with the phone prior, but now we have a full phone app. Let's see if I can find it. It looks like I'm not seeing it, so I will move on. Shortcuts. So this was interesting. A lot of shortcut updates, and the shortcut updates include the ability to automatically create shortcuts contextually. You can also add AI into your shortcuts. So if you want a shortcut that says, I'm going to clip something out, some text out of this app, and move it over to another app and summarize it. Apparently you can do that now. That's text summarization and image creation using the on-device models. It'd be really interesting to see how people can, put that into their workflows, especially when they are, maybe writing an email or doing a report based off a much longer document. Now, moving on to, again, going on screen here because I really want to show this. Oh, that's a nice basic look at the screen. But yeah, Spotlight. Okay, Spotlight got huge updates this year. So you can now take actions directly from Spotlight, meaning actions in apps. For example, you can start sending an email to a specific person in your contacts. Do that directly from Spotlight. There are also new quick keys, which are shortcuts you can type into Spotlight. So if you type in, for example, AR, that will add a reminder. So you don't have to type in add a reminder. You can just type AR. It'll automatically pull up add a reminder, and you can go ahead and do that. There are also new clipboard features, which I think I'm going to be able to show here pretty soon. Let's see. So I create taglines. That's an example of AI in the Spotlight. So the demo here is actually creating a tagline based off this document within Spotlight and then adding that to the document. And then also there is a history of the clipboard in Spotlight. Looks like I'm not seeing that right here, but yes, there is a clipboard history in Spotlight. So you can go and you can search through recent clipboard items and add them to documents using Spotlight, directly from Spotlight. That seems really cool. I was really happy with these Spotlight updates. I mean, a lot of really powerful tools here. It kind of reminds me of like the Windows PowerShell, not Windows PowerShell, Windows Command updates. What was it named? Build 2025, there was a new update to Windows Power Toys, which allows you to bring a command interface up that lets you run Windows commands directly within it without opening up the Windows PowerShell interface. And it also worked as a search tool and was highly integrated into the operating system. And this feels like that plus some. Like that takes the sort of key ideas of using Spotlight as a kind of command line interface for everything on the macOS operating system and just takes that to a new level with Apple's typical polish. Now, gaming app, everything I said bad about the gaming app before applies here. It is present. It's going to be present in macOS. But yeah, it's still a very basic thing indeed. Yeah, there's some... Enzoy. Yeah, Enzoy is coming to macOS, which is kind of cool. Actually, I think it's a perfect fit for macOS. And moving on to VisionOS, we see here that there is some minor VisionOS updates. The big thing I wanted to highlight, if I can have it brought up here, there's a good example of the new liquid glass interface in VisionOS. They talked a lot. They had widgets. You can do these widgets, pinning them to physical spaces, which is cool. I think that is cool. They have new avatars, which are more realistic. There's an example. And also this brings out an example of their focus on enterprise. They mention enterprise specifically, which I think is interesting because Apple usually doesn't talk about enterprise specifically in their presentations, and they did here. I think that is wise because Vision Pro is really expensive and probably only of interest to very high-end luxury buyers and to enterprise because the Vision Pro is also extremely capable. So if you wanted to do something VR, AR with enterprise, maybe computer-aided design, stuff like that, Vision Pro is great. But it is interesting to see Apple take that route because they usually don't focus specifically on enterprise in their presentations. Now, moving past Vision OS and into iPadOS. This was a big one because I'm not going to say that Apple delivered on everything that iPadOS users have been craving for, but they delivered a lot. So here we have the basic interface with the new liquid glass look. And then moving over here, we're going to see some examples of the new windowing interface. So yes, windows are now being fully a thing, basically, on iPadOS. The windows have the classic macOS style option to close them, just like you would an app on macOS. This is a really good summary of how it looks. You can see a variety of different windows all appearing together. And this, of course, is what Mac or iPadOS users have been craving for a very long time. There's also some new swipe gestures to go along with this to make it easy to move between these windows or get rid of all of them when you want. The new menu bar also has actually a macOS style options. Might be hard for me to find that specific example. Oh, there it is. So if you look here at the top, you'll see there's a new menu bar. It looks a lot like macOS, except it's centered. And that, again, is really cool to see. And it's going to be available on all iPads that support iOS 26, okay? iPadOS 26, okay? And external displays. So let me say that again. All iPads and external displays, as long as it supports iPadOS 26. So none of this, like some things on the iPad Pro, some things not, nonsense. That is great to see. Now, Files app also has got some improvements. And going back to our screen here, we shall see that we get some new icons, and we also get a variety of options to resize things. We have the option to preview things in the Preview app, which is now available on the iPad. We have the option to determine what app opens a specific file, which I think is what they were about to show in this demo. Okay, so a lot of new options for opening files. Now, I'm not sure if this is going to solve all the complaints that people have about the Files app, but it is some good steps in the right direction. Audio input, selectable audio input is now going to be available. Audio and video, audio input. Yeah, so you can select whether you use the iPad microphone, a Bluetooth microphone, other connected microphone in the apps that you're using on the iPad. That is really big. People have been wanting that for a while, and it's been an issue with doing video and audio recording on the iPad. And that's going to make it a lot more realistic to just capture video like I'm doing right now on an iPad and use the microphones that you want to use. There's also background tasks. So as part of this, now if you're doing a video export, here's an example. If you're doing a video export on your iPad, you can now do that as a background task. And that means that you don't have to just have your iPad sitting there doing just that, basically useless otherwise, which was a huge problem with doing video and audio on the iPad. And I have a fly going by my face. Doing it live here, folks. Okay, so now one thing I did notice, there wasn't like any big announcement on Xcode for iPad. There was Journal for iPad with Apple Pen support, so that's pretty cool. A lot of people had always been curious, like, why the heck is Journal not available for iPad? Now it is. But yeah, I didn't hear anything for Xcode for iPad updates, so that's still going to be a pain point, unless there was something they didn't choose to mention at WWDC's keynote. Now, speaking of Xcode, they did briefly mention new AI features for Xcode, including the ability to use whatever model you want in Xcode for using AI for programming. I imagine developers will like that quite a bit. The details were fairly minimal, and they're going to go into that more in their specific presentation for developers. So, on the whole, and all these updates are going to be going into preview, I think today, and then there's going to be the actual update release this fall, which is typical for Apple. Now, on the whole, I actually thought this was a pretty strong WWDC. The new design looks great, in my opinion. They actually talked a lot about AI features. I'm going to make a separate a separate video about the AI features. And they also brought really strong updates, I thought, to macOS and particularly to iPadOS. So this was a good WWDC. We saw some meaningful improvement to multiple platforms, including the most important platforms for most Apple fans. And I think once these updates to iOS and macOS go live in the fall, a lot of users are going to be quite pleased. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. I'll see you next time.